Hello, everybody. Joe here. As you may have noticed, I've taken a little bit of a break from the trap set over the past 6 weeks so I could focus on prepping my album release, scoring films and TV shows, and celebrating the holidays. But we're entering our 5th year as a podcast strong with upcoming episodes with Money Mark, Jason Sutter, Ben Gibbard, Flea, Ben Lee, and more. We're glad to be back, and we're glad to have you with us. Now let's do the show.
You know, I would say up until college, most of the things like I listened to were kind of shameful, to be quite frank.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set. I want to play something for you.
October sees the leaves turn colors. You're so much older than when we first met each other down in Southern Cali, and the pounding pattern drum of pumping blood was sounding even though the subject was too young.
You're hearing Stained Glass Slippers by Y, featuring my guest, Josiah Wolf on drums. Along with his brother Yanni, Josiah co-founded Y in 2004. Over the course of 6 albums, he's demonstrated a talent for compositional drumming paired with a gift for dynamic sensitivity. A multi-instrumentalist, Josiah also released a solo album, Jetlag. I spoke to him in Pasadena, California during a recent Y tour. And now my conversation with Josiah Wolf.
Oh, you know, I had a pretty happy childhood overall, I would say. You know, we had a good street with a lot of kids, cul-de-sac, so we played a lot on the street.
Do you have kids now?
No.
I thought maybe that was the impetus to move back.
No, you know, I'm not sure how. I kind of know how it happened. I was living in California, going through a breakup, divorce, and we were on tour so much that it seemed silly to pay Bay Area prices. So basically, I was like, well, I can move somewhere else. I started looking. I was looking everywhere in the country, and somehow I was just got sucked back to Cincinnati.
Do you still have family there?
Yeah, my parents. That was one reason. My parents live in Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's great. I grew up in Milwaukee, which has a similar vibe.
Yeah, I like Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's a nice town. I don't know if I could move back there, but
yeah, I mean,
never know.
Once you're established here, sometimes I'm like, man, I like L.A.
How long did you
live? I lived here before the Bay. Again.
How long did you live on the West Coast?
From 2003 until 2008, so like 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I always associated you guys with the Bay Area for some reason.
Yeah, no, not that long. 5 or 6 years, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory at all? I think it's one that I'm going to tell you, although that's what I've told myself is my earliest memory.
Well, that's the nature of memory.
That's how memory works. So I grew up going to this congregation that my dad led. This kind of gets into all this stuff. It's called Messianic Judaism. It was like Jewish people who are Christians, basically. I'm not in that now.
Is that Jews for Jesus?
It's a different organization, not as door-to-door kind of vibe, but same belief system, basically. Jews for Jesus is a very specific organization, and my parents aren't part of that. But, yeah, they believe the same thing.
So is the idea that you're culturally Jewish, but that you're accepting Jesus as a Messiah?
Yeah, that's basically it's like going back to the people back in the day that were all the first Christians were Jewish.
Of course.
Anyway, that's what they believe. They came to that much to their parents' chagrin, and they left Philadelphia. And my dad started a congregation in Cincinnati, which is why I ended up there.
So were your grandparents like
they were just
Orthodox?
No, not Orthodox. Like just liberal East Coast Jews, Reformed. I don't know. They went to synagogue sometimes, but pretty much weren't very religious.
And then your parents caught the spirit.
Yes, they caught the spirit. They met some people during the Jesus freak movement in the 70s. And yeah, and they're really into it. And I grew up in that environment, and sometime in my teens I was like, I don't know about any of this stuff. But, I've always been very skeptical. Anyway, my earliest memory is we were at the congregation. I must have been 4, I don't know. And one of the elders or whatever, the guys who help out a lot, very funny guy, Bob, took me, kind of kidnapped me. My mom was pissed. I remember she was like so mad. That's why I remember it, because she was so mad at him. She kept me on a very healthy diet. I didn't even know what sugar was until I was like, I don't remember this, but people have told me I tasted sugar and I'm like, what is this weird sweet salt or something? Like I didn't even know what it was called. And this guy took me to an ice cream parlor and like brought me a chocolate ice cream, and I had and my mom was freaking out because I disappeared, and he just took me, and like I loved it. And I came back and I had chocolate all over my face, and she was screaming at him, like, "You never take my son away."
That's your
buy
first
him ice
memory.
cream, yeah. So I think that was
So
my
how do we
first
parse
memory.
through that? I mean, it's like you experienced the joy of chocolate, and then the fallout, the guilt,
Right, and I think that's why I remember it.
And
It
that's
was, like,
that
intense.
teaches you the lesson that no ice cream cone in life goes unpunished.
That's right. I don't
Right.
eat. I eat ice cream now.
You don't?
Well, I can't tolerate much the dairy. I mean, I taste ice cream.
It's
here.
psychosomatic. It's
It
like
might
goes
be.
back to that.
I think it might. Very possible.
So tell me more about so when you were a kid, did you have a sense of faith?
I kind of. I always acted like it. For some reason, I faked it a lot. I never really felt it. But yeah, I believed it in my mind in some way as a kid. I just, at a very young age, became very skeptical. Like now I'm not an atheist, but I definitely, I can't see just like subscribing to one religion. I don't know. I have my theories about things.
What's your underlying theory? Like, what would you tell a kid if you had a kid? How would you describe your sense of spirituality?
That's a great question. That topic, I would try not to push an opinion either way. Is there a God? Isn't there a God? I'm a big science person, so in the past several years, I've really self-taught myself astronomy, just reading and other things that relate to astronomy, particle physics, and all sorts of things. And I love learning what humanity has figured out and what we know and why we know it, and understanding all that stuff. And then I like kind of reaching the edge of it where, okay, we don't know past this. So past this point, it really is faith and like, well, what is your kind of viewpoint in life? Because there's no proof, there's no evidence that there is a God or that there isn't a God. I think even on the other side, if you read Dawkins' stuff, it kind of annoys me, because all he does is kind of berate the. I don't know, that's when you're on either side of that, it just kind of annoys me. I just take that topic and try to not even think too much about it. I don't know. That sounds weird, but yeah, I mean, it's an important question. I just don't think anyone can answer it.
Yeah, that's why it's such an important question.
Yeah, right. I mean, I have the sense, this is a personal, it's, not necessarily true, but that everything comes from one thing, and that everything is like one thing, basically.
I mean, I think you can say that scientifically too.
Scientifically, yeah.
There's basically one universe.
Right.
Universe as in one.
Right.
And any smaller matter that we perceive is kind of like our brain parsing out how existence works.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that, we see discrete colors when it comes to light, but really there's just this huge spectrum of things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's an interesting thing, like the color wheel, right? It starts, it's continuous, and the violet fades right into the red, but in reality, the red and the violet are on opposite sides of the spectrum, so it's kind of weird that it makes a wheel. That's like a human perception thing, really.
Yeah, just like how atheists and religious nuts are
Right,
on opposite sides of the
right.
spectrum, but
Right,
they
right.
fade into each other.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of music was on in the house when you were a kid?
So we grew up listening to a lot of religious music and stuff that was pretty insular within that community, the Messianic Jewish community. There was a band called Lamb, a different Lamb. There's another Lamb that's secular, more popular. But so the band that we listened to called Lamb was kind of coming from real 70s, like Bob Dylan kind of vibe, even, I don't know what his influence was, but 70s rock. And it was like our favorite band, but it was very insular, like no one else knew about it. But that was the first band that Yoni and I, my brother, who is in the band now with me, why?
Your younger brother.
Yes, my younger brother. We were like huge fans. We bought these little guitars and we would like kind of go to their concerts and see. We were like young, like maybe 7 and 4 or something.
Would it be at your dad's temple or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. If they came there, or there was an annual conference in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and they always performed there, and we would. It was like we were just big fans. So that was my first band. But then at some point, my dad started playing us the Beatles and Bob Dylan and these kinds of things, and quickly, yeah, the Beatles I got into pretty young because he deemed that to be okay to listen to.
So was guitar your first instrument?
No, drums. Mm-hmm. My dad played the drums.
Oh, he did?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Still
did he
does
play
a little
with?
bit. Just bands, local. No one that I remember even.
So you never would go see him play? At
No.
clubs or anything
But by
like
the
that?
time I was born, he was only playing at the congregation sometimes. Yeah, he didn't play in a group at that point. When he was younger in high school, he played in some bands and stuff. But he played in the congregation, and he just started teaching me at a pretty young age, basic stuff.
Can you remember the first time that you played drums?
Yeah.
How did it
I think
feel?
so. It felt good. He showed me this basic beat, and they had me play at the congregation. I took to it pretty quick, and so it became something like, oh, I can do this. I'm pretty good at this, and you get a response from people, and that's kind of how I started. Was playing at the congregation, being like the pastor's son. I was just so spoiled,
How else were you spoiled?
No, not financially. We were pretty poor, actually, but.
But just spoiled with attention?
Yeah, the attention,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, oh, Josiah, he's a great drummer, even though I was not that, compared to these child prodigies you see on YouTube now, I wasn't anything. I could just play a basic beat,
I don't know, man. It's hard to know what's going to become of all these child prodigies on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like it's analogous to all the blues guitar prodigies that we saw come and go when I was a kid.
They're still doing something, these people.
Some of them are, yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's more like being an athlete, though.
Yes.
In some
Absolutely.
ways.
It is.
Lots of these kids are very athletic, but they haven't developed a voice yet.
It's hard for me to find any of that stuff, the music. I'm like, yeah, this is cool music. Usually it's just like, man, this music is terrible, but these guys are just...
It's just like a MIDI track that
Right.
they're shredding over,
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah.
Did you find that drumming became part of your identity pretty quickly?
It did.
That's what your thing was?
It did, yeah. Especially when I moved into junior high school is when it really, even in 4th and 5th grade in the band, I was definitely like the star kid drummer. I remember the teacher took me aside and was like, you really hold the drum section together, whatever. I don't remember what he told me, but yeah, I could just follow the music and the rhythm pretty straight. And then in junior high school, yeah, I was so small, I couldn't play any sports. I was like, so yeah, drumming was like my way in to being
a person.
A person, yeah, somewhat cool or whatever, People would call me the little drummer boy,
They did?
Yeah, I was really small.
Did that feel derisive?
I liked it, whatever. There's something.
When did your taste start to diverge from that of your parents? Or more accurately, when did you kind of start developing your own musical sensibility?
I would say up until college, most of the things like I listened to were kind of shameful, to be quite frank.
Like what?
Fish, was no offense to Fish.
When were you
They're
born?
old stuff.
What year were you born?
1976.
Okay.
So I'll just tell you right now, coming out of what my parents were into and kind of shifting into secular music, I just kind of latched on to whatever my friends had around me. I really wasn't a digger. I would take what came to me, like, oh, my friend listens to this, so let's check that out. So yeah, pretty early, like I would say in junior high school, I started listening to Rush a lot and prog, that kind of stuff. One of my friends was real into Led Zeppelin, so I got into Led Zeppelin. And then, Fish came in like high school. I became a bit of a Fish.
Like, were you a
early
serious tape
early
collector
records.
and everything?
Tape collector, yeah. I wouldn't say I was serious, but I had tapes, yes.
Did you go see them?
I did.
Did you do drugs?
Yeah, I think the last time I saw them was my freshman year in college, and by then I started smoking marijuana, but not any harder drugs at that point.
No psychedelics?
I mean, I like psychedelics, but no, not at their shows. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I went to school for jazz, and I quickly kind of shifted, like, oh, this is real jazz. And so like Fish kind of did, and then Fish put out, after they put out a record, Hoist, and I was like, okay, I don't really like this band anymore. But yeah, their first 4 records I was into. But now I hear it, I'm like, oh man.
But who knows? Maybe in another 10 years you'll hear it again, and you'll be like, you know what? Hoist is actually pretty good. I didn't hear it at the time. That's
true.
the mystery of music, right?
Yeah.
So you went to school where?
College, I went to CCM in Cincinnati, which is part of University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
And did you want to become a jazz musician?
Yeah, I kind of got that in my head. I really fell in love with jazz. My senior year of high school, my friend Barry started giving me these tapes, Sonny Rollins and various other things, Wes Montgomery, and I was like, wow, this is really cool.
This is even better than Fish.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't all at once, but slowly, in college. My first year, I was a classical percussion major, and then I shifted over to jazz my second year. And then, that group of people were very serious about jazz, my peers. So I kind of just delved in. And
that's why you feel shamed by admitting
Fish.
your
yeah, oh yeah, they shamed me.
Yeah, I don't know if that happens as much anymore.
Yeah,
I don't really
not.
think people use music as a strong signifier like they used to. Even music students don't seem to, because the internet really opened everything up.
You're absolutely right. I've noticed that too. And I like that. I like the freedom young people have now. It's different than, I mean, of course, there are cool things about the era I feel like I came up in. But, I hear what you're saying.
Today's Elvin Jones's birthday.
Is it?
Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to see him?
Yes, I did. I saw Elvin Jones 3 times. So Elvin Jones, I mean, of course, everyone says this, but like he was the one who grabbed me the most.
Oh my gosh!
Just his timing and his pocket and everything about his playing. He's my favorite.
His imagination, everything.
Yeah, it's just so grounded.
All right, so you went to school, you did classical percussion, and then you transitioned into jazz. Mm-hmm. And then you moved to New York right after that?
I was like, I got to go to New York. A lot of my friends
This is
went
where
there.
it all happens?
Yeah, I went to New York. I worked room service at this hotel called Hudson with some other jazz musicians who were from Cincinnati, which was one of Ian Schreger's, who Studio 54 guy, started buying hotels and making these really posh hotels that catered to celebrities and partying and stuff. So we would deliver to like Jim Carrey and Mariah Carey. Oh, same. I never even thought about that. I took up to both of those people, 2 Carries. I don't think it's related. And that job was harsh. I mean, it was like I had to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So I turned my schedule around. I would go to Smalls, actually, jam session, until like 4.
Right.
Go straight to work.
Then go to bed.
Come back from work at 1 p.m. And then, I basically got myself on this weird shifted schedule. Met some cool guys who went to the new school, had one steady band. We played every Monday night, made like $10 a person, and free Budweisers. And other than that, hardly played at all other than trying to go to jam sessions. Some gigs here and there, but could not get my way into the scene there. Exactly. I mean, I was only there for 3 years.
Were you discouraged?
A little bit, yeah. I became a little bit discouraged on jazz. A little feeling like I don't know about the modern state of jazz. A little, even though I loved, the best part about living in New York was I got to hear a lot of great people, but the shows are so expensive, and it's like I wasn't making that much. It was just money. That was the main thing. It was hard there.
I feel like hip hop draws the same demographic of artists that jazz drew back in the 40s through the 60s.
Sure.
And then in the 70s, jazz started to become more revered in academia, and more kind of the language of bebop and post-bebop became more codified, and then it became more kind of co-opted by high society too.
Sure.
For better or worse. I mean, it probably should be, because it's a huge, it's like the greatest American cultural achievement probably, and it should be in museums, but then once that happens, then it draws a different type of person.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely changed exactly as you would expect it to. And like you said, it should be that way. You can't stop things from going in that direction. And it's a beautiful music. But yeah, I guess a lot of it was just I wasn't that great at that time. Not that I'm great now, but you know what I'm saying. I feel more confident now. Like if I moved to New York right now, I feel like if I had enough money, I could slowly do something. But I have no interest in that.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like New York is quickly becoming more and more difficult for an artist to live in.
That's what everybody says.
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's what's said. So yeah, then I left. I moved to California. Basically, I started hearing my brother's music that he was working on. I was like, this is fresh, new stuff. And the people surrounding him, everyone was inspired. And I was like, I want to do this stuff.
He was in where?
California, in Oakland.
In Oakland,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So what was he doing out there?
He moved out there to be around this crew of guys called Anticon, which Matt Valerio, who introduced us, is part of. And tangible energy coming from those guys, where they would just get people to shows. You could just feel the energy around what all those guys were doing. So I just wanted to be a part of it. I was like, let's screw this jazz business. Let's, go. I'll take what I've learned and go and be a part of this thing with my brother. And that's what I've been doing ever since, really. I
studied jazz too, and I just felt after a while like I had to admit that it wasn't my native language, So it's kind of like if I went to school for Latin and then tried to write novels in Latin or something. It's just like I could try to do that, but I made the choice to let that kind of be a foundation and then move on into something that's more natural to me.
Yeah, I did that for a while, but there is something about, like, I do feel very comfortable playing jazz, almost more than other stuff. So I've come back around to it, and actually that's what I do now in Cincinnati, like when I'm not touring, is I
go
play.
Sit in and
yeah,
stuff.
Well, no, I actually, luckily over the past year, I've made my living doing that, just playing
great
jazz, mostly other stuff. But I do feel like I'm a jazz drummer almost before anything else, but I have my limitations, of course. I'm not like, I in a bigger city like this, I don't know. I don't want to say. It's hard for me to say where I fit into all of it, but I love playing jazz, and I feel pretty comfortable with it, more and more so. Actually, this past year, I've never felt as good as I have this past year. Something just clicked in me where it's like, okay, I can do this and not... I don't know. It almost took like 20 years for the music school thing to kind of fade away. That those insecurities and the feelings when you're playing, like, how is the time as a bass player thinking, is it speeding up? All those little things. It's so
crazy, like thinking. I remember that too, where you're thinking like everybody's judging you, and you're judging everybody else.
Exactly.
It seems so counter to the spirit of music.
It is, and I had to. It took me a long time to get that out of my head. I really feel like something clicked, where maybe it's an age thing, where I was like, I know that this is where it is, and other people fall into that, and it feels good.
I conquered my own childhood silence, and now the world is mine with confessional marquee. But it'd take a bus load of high school soccer girls to wash those hospitals off me.
You made your way out to Oakland
Yeah,
and started playing with your brother.
yeah.
Had you guys played a lot together when you were growing up?
Not seriously. No, we hadn't much. Before either of us moved, maybe in 1998, we started working. Well, he started working on recording a lot. He really, even before that, he got into it. But he got me involved with this project Cloud Dead, and I helped him with one of the sides. It was like they released a series of 7 inches or 10 inches. I don't know. Anyway, that record was successful, especially in England, and it kind of opened the door for him to make his career happen in many ways. But that was the first time that I worked on recording as an art, and I loved it. I mean, he opened that door to me. I grew up as a live player, drumming. I never really thought about the art of recording. And once he opened that door and showed me kind of, oh, this is a whole nother thing you can do, it just became so much fun. And so moving to Oakland was more about working on recording than about playing live at first. Once we had a record and then we started touring, then it's like, oh, now we're playing live again. But, one of the things my brother, I think, has helped me with, the kind of gift from him in a way, was like this other world that I had no idea about, and he opened my eyes to that.
Yeah, how would you characterize that other world?
It's more like collage. It's like you're thinking about all the pieces, and you can do anything. At least at the beginning, nowadays, once you do it enough, you kind of need to find ways to make it fun. But yeah, I mean, in the early stages, it feels like the possibilities are endless. So you have 8 tracks. Oh, you can do this, and then what if we bring this thing in on this side? It seems so simple, but at the time it was novel to me.
Because you were still thinking in kind of like a live, linear way.
In a linear way, yeah.
And so this was allowing you to both kind of like work around any kind of technical limitations?
Yeah, because neither of us, I guess I was a serious enough drummer, but as far as other instruments, we both play a little bit of everything, but we're not great at anything else. So yeah, it was a way we could make little tricks happen, overdub a lot of things, especially once computers became.
What were your ambitions for the band once it started taking off?
I had no idea it would happen in the way that it happened, and it's not like we became huge, but watching it grow slowly from tour to tour was very exciting. And I didn't see a ceiling at the time. Obviously now it's like, okay, we've kind of hit a certain ceiling, and our career is a different place. It is where it is. But up until...
Well, what does that mean? I mean, it seems like you're doing pretty well.
We're doing fine. But we have a loyal fan. Yeah, we do have a buzz, but we've seen a bit of a dip in our audiences just from the last tour, which was an anniversary tour for our most popular record. Right now, I've talked to my brother about this, and he's in a transitional phase. He's trying to figure out what his next step is. We're both in midlife. I'm 43, he's 40. So I think he's kind of thinking about, well, how many more records can we do and keep doing this? Now, we have a loyal fan base, but it's not huge, So
yeah.
It's like the bus at this point, we're on the edge of being able to like do that.
Right.
The last tour, it was like, okay, we have enough people in the audiences, the bus works. Right now, I don't know. But yeah, up until 2009, I would say every tour was like more and more. So it kept growing. Mm-hmm. So it really felt like, yeah, if we keep doing this, it's just going to keep growing. But I would say for the past 10 years, it has pretty much settled into its place of where we fit into the musical world, which is, we have a loyal fan base who loves our music, and then some other people come, but it's not like...
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how you start out with no ambitions, and then you get used to this kind of growth, and then when that stops or plateaus, then you realize that like popular success plays into the way you're thinking about it to a certain extent, right?
Exactly.
Like logistically, even.
Yep, that's true. Your even with the way you record, once you know people are listening to it and how many people are listening to it, it changes the way that you work on stuff. Unfortunately, I wish it didn't. But
what about the amount of joy that you experience when you're playing now versus, say, when you were playing in your dad's congregation even, or when Y was starting?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would say, like, I enjoy playing now more than I ever have. Like, I feel more free, more confident. It's just as far as playing goes.
Do you think that comes from practice and work, or is it also from some sort of kind of personal development?
I think it's both. Yeah, I think it's both. I've learned how to practice over the years in a way that seems pretty efficient. But yeah, I mean, you can't really practice the way that you perceive things when you're playing with people. And I mean, I guess you just have to keep doing it. But yeah, a lot of it's just getting older, I think. I mean, I do have some specific, like in the past year, I've gotten into these exercises that I've come up with that I think have been very helpful to me. These, what I call these polyrhythm exercises that seem, I think they help me, I think. But just having something, I like working on certain exercises every day, and I like the feeling that, okay, these are ones that I came up with myself. It's not something I found. And it just settles my time a lot, the ones that I do. So,
what do you think about throughout the day?
On tour or at home?
In general. Like today, what do you have, like recurring thoughts that go through your head?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's just talk about today, because we were not playing tonight. We have the night off, so, and I've this podcast, and then we're doing Song Exploder after this. So I've kind of just been thinking about how I'm going to present myself, even though I have no idea what I'm going to say. I'm just following your lead, perhaps. But I guess being interviewed is weird. You have to be in a certain open mindset, but you don't want to just keep talking indefinitely. I don't know. It's a strange position to be in. So, and then tonight, since we have the night off, I'm hoping to do something fun, but I'm kind of relying on other people to make some plans, and then I'm going to join them. So,
are you pretty kind to yourself?
Nowadays, yeah, pretty much. As far as mistakes go?
Yeah, it's just like as far as like when you're taking stock of your life, are you generous with yourself like you would be if you were, taking stock of a friend's life?
In some ways. I do think I'm hard on myself about accomplishing things, and I do have a lot of anxiety about time running out, and I got to finish this thing. But then I'm like, well,
because when time runs out, what happens?
Well,
we don't know.
We don't know. We have no idea. But yeah, I mean, I when I'm at my best, I'm okay with the way things are. I'm pretty much like, well, nothing really matters that much. So, and everything matters at the same time. So I want to do as best I can, but I'm just a little cog in the whole thing that we don't understand. So, I don't know.
What is your, when you say that you're hard on yourself about accomplishing certain things, like what kind of things do you want to accomplish?
I've been working on I have a solo record I put out 10 years ago that is, for me, hard to listen to. It was a breakup record. And I like certain songs, but a lot of the songs I'm like, oh. But people like it, some people, and on tour, a lot of people ask me, "Are you doing another one?" And I have been working on another record for like years now, and it's just I need to finish it. It's just like I can't seem to finish it. So what I need to do is like block off some time. So I've been a bit hard on myself about that, just feeling like why can't I just finish a second thing?
Is being hard on yourself constructive?
Hopefully, in this case, it will be. Yeah, it can be. I think that when you reach like a certain breaking point, where it's like, okay, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, the like just being hard on yourself without making any action moves that's not constructive, I don't think.
I just finished my first solo record.
Really?
And the way that I finally was able to do it is I did what you are talking about. Like, I have my own studio.
Yeah.
But I find that, I work for other people in my studio, so there's always an excuse to be servicing somebody else's vision when I'm in my own studio.
Yes.
And that's kind of like altruism as self-destructive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's not real altruism, it's like me distracting myself with someone else's thing.
I definitely have that same.
Well, you're a drummer. That's what we are.
Right. That's what we are. Yeah.
We're there to, facilitate, usually. Unless we're talking about the YouTube stars. But
Right.
But I paid to go to another studio so that I felt like it was serious.
Really?
And I flew my friend out here to produce it for me because I felt like I needed someone else in the room to tell me if something was working or not.
Yeah.
Because I'm too hard on myself, or at least I was at that point, and I just needed someone to either be like, okay, that's working,
I think
or
it's a great
try
idea.
another take.
Yeah.
So that's my suggestion.
Did it work?
It worked great, and I'm really proud of how it came out. Which
Nice.
is, for me to even be proud of anything that I've worked on is huge. I mean, it shows progress from where I was, when I started the thing.
That's awesome. I'd like to hear that.
This podcast was kind of my bridge to making an album. It was like the first thing that I had made kind of on my own. I mean, I have a producing partner on it, but it was something that I could control and put out every week. And so I felt like I had taken creative agency back from the paradigm that I had been working in, which is like composing for other people's television shows and movies, and you're always working on someone else's schedule, and they're the arbiter of whether it's working or not.
Right.
So this was kind of like a small step towards it. And then also talking to people like you and realizing that I'm not like uniquely neurotic.
Right.
But anyway.
That's cool. Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
That feels good to kind of complete something like that. And,
Yeah.
But I like your process. I'll consider that. I mean, I have thought about having someone else. It is, yeah. So when you're alone, I have that as well, where it's never good enough, and you can keep doing more takes, and you can keep, second guessing. And I had that trouble a little bit when I did my first solo thing. Although that one, everything culminated where it was kind of written and demoed. So I was like, all right, now I just have to really record it. And I isolated myself for like a month and a half in this cabin, and that worked at that time. But nowadays, I don't know. I think having someone else might be good.
Yeah, I mean, just even someone whose taste that you appreciate, or somebody that can help you.
It's like trying on outfits in the store, and you
Exactly.
come out
If you're
like, is this working? Like,
you need somebody to help you.
Maybe the other one is better.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so that's one of your goals. What else?
Oh, good question. I would like to have. So apart from that music, I've been kind of writing and arranging jazz stuff, but a little. What I really want, and I'm envious of some of these. There are some younger players in Cincinnati, which is great because they're very inspiring and they're very good, and they are in groups together where it feels like a very intimate group. And I have that with my brother with Y, but it's different type of music. I would like to get into a band that really feels like we're very close and we all contribute, and I trust them all and their tastes, all of our tastes could mesh nicely. That can work together and write together and feel like this is cool music, different stuff, maybe somewhat in the jazz thing, but open, And it's something I really want, and I don't have that. And there are good players in Cincinnati, but I don't have that with anyone exactly. And at my age, and a lot of the guys I play with, it's harder because they're working people, and it's almost easier when you're younger to find people that will just come over and play every couple days and work on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what were you talking about? Like Sonny Rollins. I mean, when you listen to, say, the group that he had when he was playing with Clifford Brown and Max Roach and stuff, I mean, that was a really tight collective. You
Absolutely.
Could feel it. It wasn't just like sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's being really part of a community, and a lot of it is just playing it with people enough that you trust one another, that you're able to throw all the bullshit to the side and just really focus on the sounds that you want. And as much as I do enjoy playing jazz around Cincinnati, and there are some great players who call me, which I'm very grateful for, I don't feel like I have a group that I feel like we can really just create together, and and why is good, but it doesn't give me all that.
Does your brother live in Cincinnati now?
He does,
too?
yeah. No, he's not a live player. He's really more of a writer and recorder. And he wishes he were more of a live. I think he said he kind of envies that I can come home and play with people and stuff. And I hear what he's saying, but I don't have it exactly like I want it, just because of what I'm saying now, I guess.
How has it affected your dynamic as siblings to be creative partners for all these years?
That's an excellent question. Oh, man. I don't know.
Because you're the older brother.
I am.
I assume that maybe like when you guys were younger, you were turning him on to stuff like, hey, man, check out Fish, check out Rush.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, he got into Fish through me. I don't think he ever liked Rush. But, he definitely got into Fish for a minute. And that was probably because of me. Although he hung out with hippie people, his friends. So, yeah, kind of. Although I will say, even though I was 3 years older, his crew, who he hung out with in high school, they were just cooler people than I was in marching band. A lot of my friends were in marching band. His friends were like skaters. They were
listening to punk and stuff.
Yeah, he had a cooler scene. Like, he always was kind of hipper, a little more finger on the pulse of what's cool. Even the way he dressed, I don't know. He's just a cooler guy in some ways. So in some ways, I think he influenced me more stylistically and musically than I have to him. I think I've given him some older brother things, as far as, I don't know, he'd have to tell you. I'm sure I've offered something to him. But yeah, in many ways, he took the lead on a lot of things musically, I would say, which is, he became involved with some very inspired people. This guy, Adam Drucker, who really inspired him and inspired him to make his own music long before I was thinking about making my own music. So, yeah. To finish, I can't separate. I can't say what our dynamic would even look like because we've been working together so long. Are you
still really close personally?
I try. We try. It's not in our nature to necessarily be totally open with one another. I've made an effort in the past year to talk to him and try to confide in him and be open, but it's hard. It's not always natural for me, and there's so many weird dynamics, not just between him and I, but family dynamics. He's had a lot of health issues, and my mom could be overly kind of worried about him, and I worry about him too, but I don't want to baby him. He's an adult, and he's figured a lot of stuff out, so it can be tough. And then there's the home life and the tour life. Like on tour, he has a harder time, so I at this point we've hired merch people, and we have our manager. But in the past, I've kind of taken a lot of those responsibilities on the road, just because there's a lot of things to do, and he has a hard time being on the road. At home, it's a little different. He's more in his element. But yeah, it can be tough, but we're in a good place. We don't like fight, but there's definitely some passive aggressive kind of feelings sometimes, I think.
Do you feel like it's easier for you to be open with, say, friends, people that are not in your family?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, sometimes with strangers even. It's weird.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like I haven't gotten an official diagnosis, but I think doing this show actually, it's a way to connect with people on a real level that I don't have an opportunity to do as often, in regular life. I mean, I have people that I'm very close to, but it's always been hard for me to be open with my siblings too, for some reason.
Mm-hmm. There's
some reason I'm not even sure of, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, I want to be more. It's like a goal of mine, actually.
There's another goal.
Yeah, to be more open. But I tend to be a little bit of a closed person in some ways, a little secretive. But yeah, I'm trying to not be that way as much.
It actually might help you with your other goals as far as like making the best solo record that you can make. And if you're that open, it might attract the kind of jazz community that you're seeking.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, a part of it is I think Cincinnati has, it's not a big city. Like Chicago, a lot of my friends moved to Chicago, and there's a very healthy scene there. I really like what's happening there. So I've thought about maybe moving elsewhere, but I don't know.
Do you feel like you're not really tethered to Cincinnati, other than obviously?
All my family lives there. I could move. My wife Liz. We've talked about it. Her and I. We don't have kids, so. But yeah, it would have to be. I don't know. At this point, moving to another even bigger city doesn't seem that appealing.
Yeah.
There's a conflict there because I love nature. I love the ocean, the lake. Like we love Lake Michigan.
Same. I mean, I grew up in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
so
I love astronomy. I like dark skies, but those places don't have a thriving musical community. So it's like, yeah, that's the disconnect there.
Could move to Pasadena.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's nice out
beautiful
here.
out here. I know, it's true.
We just moved here from downtown LA, and I freaked out at first, but I'm starting to settle into it. So. We'll see how it goes.
Nice. It's beautiful here. I mean, yeah, I would love to move here, but it's so expensive. I mean,
yeah, it is really expensive.
Yeah. I mean,
it's really for the amount of money that I pay in rent, I mean, I could own a really nice house anywhere else.
Of course, yeah.
Well, not anywhere, not in San Francisco, but most other places.
Not San Francisco, but yes, Cincinnati, most definitely.
Yeah, we'd be living large.
We paid $100,000 for our house.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does your dad still have a congregation?
Yes, he does. He's still in Cincinnati.
Is your mom does she work there, or does she have...
No, she helps out, but she does her own thing. She actually edits his art book. She was kind of a little bit of a celebrity in the watercolor world. She's been editing this book, Splash. They're no longer doing it, but for many, many years. I mean, they have like countless editions. So she's done that, and she just exercises constantly. She's very fit. Yeah.
What about you? Do you exercise?
Yeah, I do. I have to. Otherwise, I start to have pains. And yeah, I do yoga and a little light weightlifting and push-ups and stuff.
Do you have a tour exercise routine?
I do, yeah. I go to the gym. I start with a bit of yoga. I have like a probably 20-minute routine, not too long. Sometimes I'll do the elliptical. And then ab stuff, push-ups, and some curls. And nothing crazy, but yeah.
Once I started exercising on tour, it really revolutionized my life.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Makes it so much better.
I have to feel strong enough that I can lift things and do stuff where it feels good, where I'm not like pulling anything.
I'm actually in the worst shape I've been in a while right now, and I'm kind of getting back on track.
Yeah.
Part of it is moving out here is going to help me with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just did your solo record.
I worked a lot.
It's hard to exercise when you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
What do you do for work?
Well, I compose music for shows and movies.
Okay.
And I was doing like 80, 90-hour weeks for lots of the last year. So now I'm learning how to say no to certain things and being more selective, and then try to have actual balance between my own creative projects and my health and work. And
I mean, you see, the lifestyle you have seems very cool to me. Like, I envy that. Like, I've thought about, like, I'd love to make. Now, I'm sure there, like you've said, downsides to it. You're constantly at the whim of someone else. Timelines.
It's a great career.
I mean, that's something I've like been like, that'd be cool to do that.
It took a long time to get to a point where I felt comfortable doing it and confident. It took probably a good 10 years to really feel like I had some real momentum going.
Yeah.
Now it feels really good. And now, especially since I'm doing my own work, I feel like I can take on other people's projects with more gusto. And it's kind of gotten to a point where the people that I'm working with are all people that I really admire, and I trust their opinion, and I'm happy to put
You've
myself
slowly
at their
weeded
disposal.
out the people who are hard.
Yeah, that and also just kind of like once you do that and you start doing work that's in line with your own values or your own aesthetic, then it attracts more like-minded people, I think. So that's kind of what's starting to happen over the last couple of years, and I'm feeling great about it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But enough about me.
Yeah, I would say, as far as final thoughts, let's just talk about time for a second. Like one realization I've had in the past year, and one thing I do is I record myself all the time, and it used to stress me out, but now it's actually, it almost stresses me out not to record myself. And the reason is, like, when I'm recording myself on a gig, if something feels weird, I'm like, well, I'll hear that. I'll check it out later. Like, and then I can just put it out of my mind. Like, it's probably not as weird as I think. But one thing I've realized is I can easily speed up and be pulled into, like, speeding up, which isn't always bad. But if it's too much, it kind of annoys me. But it's very hard for me to slow something down. So I can sit on something and really kind of pull it back, and it really hardly ever slows down. That's me. And I mean, maybe different people have different internal times. But it's made me realize if I'm playing with a bass player who's like right up on it, I can just sit right where I am. And there's certain times when I'm like, this feels really good. And I'll listen back and it's like, yeah, like that song, you listen to the beginning and the end of the song, and it just is the same tempo. And not that that's always the goal, but I do have a certain obsession with that, with being able to just have a steady beat and play around with it and kind of come back to that. And I used to struggle with that, and I feel like in the past year, something has settled in me where I realized that it's very hard for me to slow something down, so I can really just sit on it and not worry if someone's like pushing, and just like settle back into it.
Well, it's exciting that at age 43, you can still have such a powerful kind of realization. Like you're becoming self-aware in a way that you weren't before.
That's one thing I love about music. Is like, it's not like who could say in any sport that at 43 at the top of your game? Like, you can't say that in any sport.
Well, yeah, coming back to Elvin, who we were talking about, back in the late 90s when you and I saw him, he was in his 70s and he was sounding better than ever.
Yeah.
Like the same thing that you were saying about sports, that goes for lots of careers. I mean, like, music pushes you to continue to develop in a way that perhaps accounting or other careers that people have doesn't necessarily do. Now, that's not to say that you can't approach any discipline in this way, but I feel like music inherently forces you to do that.
Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I love about it is just the constant growth and kind of self-awareness or something. I don't know.
Well, I hope to see you playing on a whole new plane at age 75.
Oh, man. Yeah. By that time, I feel like there is the dark side of it is, at a certain point, I mean, it's beautiful to keep playing. Roy Haynes, I mean, it's amazing.
I mean, yeah, speaking of
He's
Marcus Gilmore.
94, but, he doesn't play like he used to. But, I mean, still, whatever. He's like...
He still can evoke strong emotion.
Absolutely.
Playing,
exactly.
Which is kind of the goal.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
I talked to him about coming on the show, but his daughter kind of nixed it because he's not in the same state of mind that he used to be in. But the thing that I loved about talking to him on the phone is that he refers to himself in third person, and he's like so great at what he does. I feel like it's justified. Yeah, Roy Haynes does some interviews, but Roy Haynes doesn't get out of bed before noon, so you got to talk to me after noon, okay? I wish I would have just recorded those calls and made an episode.
That would have been good. That would have been good.
Anyway, Josiah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This was really nice. Yeah, thank you.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.